What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Football Talk with IA Marksman, or Marksman, whatever you want to call me. This is a YouTube podcast in a way that will feature specific topics every single weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the games that are going on. This show is to break down stuff that's happening around the league, as well as things that tend to be happening, as well as predictions and other types of, talk on specific subjects around NCAA football and the NFL. I will be bringing in one of my great friends into this weekly episode system, probably next week. I just want to kind of get this episode kind of on the way. So we have had 2 full days, well, not really full days, but 2 nights of college football already. This is Saturday, the 31st of August, this last day of August, as we head into full steam college football today, and it should turn out to be a great day. So we're going to go ahead and kind of preview general predictions. I'm going to go over some of the scores that happened the last 2 days. And we will look forward to the NFL season opener between the Broncos and Ravens, as well as my division and playoff predictions for those specific things. So in the NCAA, college football has always been a staple of my Saturday mornings during football season, and hopefully it is for you. College football is exciting. To me personally, I do not get excited as much for college football as I do for the NFL, but that's just me because I like the lore of the NFL, I think, a little bit more. But today is the 31st, and we will feature two pretty good games, but definitely one great game in Clemson and Georgia, which will be a precursor, really, of their old rivalry that they had in the 80s. Definitely one of the best rivalries still around. Probably Florida State and Florida is probably one of the other ones that are pretty big. That's really good too. And then, of course, the Red River rivalry is awesome as well. But we had an upset last night. Nicholas State took down Kansas State, but 24-21 at that. But in all honesty, it was not really an upset. Kansas State only had 5 returning starters, and the North Dakota State team is ranked 2 in the Division 1A polls. So they weren't Nicholas State, honestly. So it's pretty cool to see a Division 2 or Division 1A, get up in there and take them down. It's pretty awesome. But on Thursday night, North Carolina took on South Carolina, and South Carolina won 27-10. Clowney looked really good in the first quarter, but after that he looked pretty slow, and he looked like he was having a lot of trouble. I know he was sick, but in all honesty, he didn't tell his coach that he was sick until the third quarter. So, he was, I don't really expect him to have the greatest stamina. He is a defensive lineman, and he is definitely one of the best in the country. And, being a defensive lineman, your stamina is not as good, just because, some of those guys have some extra weight on them, if you know what I mean, and they tend to be not as good in the way of fitness. But South Carolina controlled that game for the most part. They had a lot of problems. It seemed like they showed a lot of weakness. Connor Shaw was doing really well too, and their running game was pretty decent. But North Carolina could have beat them, I think, if they had just capitalized and not ran their no huddle offense was not really working, but they stuck to it a while. So I don't know why they would do that. But South Carolina, they have Georgia next week, and they have Georgia. They have to go into Georgia, so that will be interesting to see what happens to the Georgia team today, and to see how South Carolina kind of bounce back from really not really destroying an opponent that they should have destroyed. North Carolina is a great team, and I'm all for ACC football, but North Carolina, they were having their problems. Their defense is pretty solid too, but their offense needed to get going. They did not capitalize on any of the turnovers that South Carolina, or any of the punts that South Carolina had. So So that's what happened in that game. Thursday night as well. Wake Forest played Presbyterian, and Wake, of course, won 31-7. I wasn't able to watch this game. It was on local channels only. So I know that Wake they did pretty good in it. Ole Miss and Vandy. That game was on ESPN about 9:15 and went to about 1:30 in the morning. Ole Miss won 39-35. To me, this game has set the tone for the rest of the season. It was so exciting. It literally came down to a catch. I forgot the dude's name for Vanderbilt. He had it in his hands and he dropped it and it was intercepted, and that's how the ball game ended. It was very, very good. And if every single football game today is like that, then we were in for a great season. Just because it was really good. It was so exciting to see Vanderbilt do that good, and Ole Miss looked pretty solid too. So moving on to Pac-12 play, USC, the Trojans took on Hawaii Warriors, and they beat them 30-13. It was a decent game. Took them a little bit to get going. The Trojans, they struggled in the beginning. I know it was like 5-3 in the second quarter at one point, and then they kind of went off. USC, I think they could be a contender to the Pac-12 championship this year, just because they really seem to be. I don't know. They seem to be pretty solid, and I think the only thing that will stop them from getting there is the Stanford game and the Oregon game. I believe they play Oregon this year. If not, then Washington. But Stanford definitely. So moving on to some more Pac-12 play, the Utes took the Beehive boot from Utah State this week, winning 30-26. And Utah, I believe they were at home. The Utes are a decent team. They haven't really done anything since they beat Alabama handily in the Orange Bowl that one year. That was a great game, but the Utah, the Utes did their job, and I wasn't expecting them to really lose this game to Utah State. I don't really see them. I don't really see Utah doing anything this year, but you never know. I mean, it's early. You really can't call any shots until really about mid-season once they really get into to conference play. Bowling Green beat Tulsa. I was surprised. Bowling Green, you really never hear about them, but Tulsa won the Conference USA last year. They went like 11-2. But Bowling Green beat them 34-7. Middle Tennessee, who beat Georgia Tech last year, beat West Carolina 45-24. There's really nothing to say about that because Western Carolina isn't that good of a Division 1A team anyways, so nothing to really touch base on there. Tulane over Jacksonville State 34-7. Again, Tulane, the Green Wave, really, I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't have beat them. Stanford beat Georgia State. Georgia State, yeah, I'm not even going to get into that. They beat them 31-27. Georgia State, they needed to wait for a little bit on their football. They needed to wait until they get their recruiting down for a little bit. But I think one of the games that really stole the show was the next one, which was Fresno State and Rutgers. In overtime, Fresno State beat Rutgers 52-51 in overtime. It was a shootout from the beginning. I only got to see the replay of it, but it was fantastic to see the defense. There wasn't a lot of defense, but just to see the defense get shredded. And I'm a defensive person. I love seeing defense just get in there and destroy quarterbacks. But it was definitely an interesting game to see and watch. And then Towson beat UConn 33-18. These are all from Thursday night. Towson beats UConn 33-18. Townsend, I mean, you say Townsend and most people are like, what or who? And then you say UConn, everyone's like, oh, okay. So, I don't know about that. That was interesting. I don't know why UConn was having such a bad time. But last night, Miami beat Florida Atlantic 34-6. Duke went ham. That's all we got to know about that game. Texas Tech beat SMU 41-23. That game was really close until the fourth quarter. And their walk-on quarterback, I forgot what Mayfield for Texas Tech. He beasted it. He had like 461 yards and 4 touchdowns on the day. So Anytime you get production out of that off of a walk-on freshman, I mean, you can't really beat that at this point in the season. So it was an exciting game. I watched most of it, and then whenever it kind of started breaking away, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to go play Xbox. So, but that's how I roll, But moving into my predictions for this weekend, one of the big games highlighted that I have is definitely the Georgia Clemson game. The TCU LSU game will be very good, and the Penn State and Syracuse game will also be good. The Bama and VT game, which is the first prediction I kind of have listed here. Bama is going to win in a good but one-sided game against a young Hokie offense. The defense of the Hokies is decent. They're old and they're ready to go. I believe most of them are seniors, but Bama's offense is so explosive. You got Yeldon in the backfield, and McCarron's he's very underrated as a quarterback. I mean, he has 2 national championships, for goodness sake. So that would be a good game. I don't think Virginia Tech will beat them, but if they do, then it'll be exciting to see what happens the next week, especially whenever the polls come out. Wisconsin plays Massachusetts this week. Wisconsin should beat them. If not, then Wisconsin shouldn't have even been ranked to begin with. Ohio State will destroy Buffalo. I am not a Ohio State fan. I'll probably be rooting for Buffalo in this one, but I know that they probably will not beat Ohio State. Florida will go against Toledo. They'll beat Toledo. Toledo is a decent team. I think it will be a decent game. Honestly, it will probably be a blowout, but SEC will prevail in that game. Texas A&M will go against Rice this week. I mean, honestly, it will be an okay game, and then I'm pretty sure whenever Manziel gets in there in the first half, second half, he'll take care of business. So that's just, I don't know, that whole situation with the NCAA giving him only half a game suspension. I'm not gonna say what my personal opinion is on that because it's so. I'm not really gonna get into it. At least on this week, we'll wait for that opinion until later on in the season. Oklahoma State will go against Mississippi State. Todd McShay has Oklahoma State going to get to the national championship game. Todd McShay, you are out of your mind. Honestly, I could see them doing it, but I don't know about it. I don't think they will. I think it will be a shootout, but Oklahoma State will win, definitely. I think their defense is a little bit better than Mississippi State, but Mississippi State has a really good running game, so we'll see. That's one's kind of up in the air for me, but I think Oklahoma State will win, definitely. Notre Dame will beat Temple. They play Temple this week in Notre Dame. But I think this game will really show. I bet Temple will stress them so much, and it will show how weak Notre Dame really is. They should be in conference, and I'm not going to get into independence. I think independence it's the worst thing that you can do in college football, other than the BCS at this point. I think everybody should be tied to a specific conference. If not, then you shouldn't even be listed. Honestly, BYU should be in the Mountain West. Notre Dame should either be in the Big Ten because they play most people in the Big Ten anyways, or they should be put in the ACC or the American Athletic Conference, whichever one you want to do. So either one of those three would be fine with me, and I would be happy. And leave the academies in like the Air Force, Army, and your Navy and independents because they don't need to be in a conference because honestly they haven't done anything to really need to be in a conference either. That'll just keep Notre Dame kind of from playing some bad teams. Temple is going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting game to see what Temple does. Michigan will go against Central Michigan this week. Michigan should beat them, but I could almost see an upset. That Central Michigan they're feisty, and I could see them coming in there and beating them in Ann Arbor. But I don't think it will happen. I think Michigan will beat them. I'm not a Michigan fan either, mind you. I'm more of a Michigan State fan, which they beat Western Michigan last night. But Michigan, no, they should beat them. I think Michigan may beat Ohio State this year. I don't know. Red versus blue is always good. You never know in that game at all. Oregon plays Nicholas State for the third straight year, and last year they won. I believe it may have been against Portland State, Oregon beat them, I know, like 84-0. So I think this year Nicholas State gets beat by 70 points or more. Honestly, Nicholas State's getting a butt ton of money from it. So I don't know. Just send your guys out there and let them just like act like they're playing flag football at this point, and let Oregon put up as much points as possible to keep their number 3 rank in the nation. Oregon State goes against Eastern Washington. I mean, come on, Oregon State's probably going to beat them. Eastern Washington, though, is a good team. So, they're Division 1A. They could honestly, they won't beat them, but I could see them putting up a good game. I could see them definitely, just because you never know anymore in this sort of systems, in these systems at all. Let's see, where was I at? Oh yeah, University of Louisiana Monroe plays against Oklahoma. They're 16 in the nation. I could see them winning this game. I could see Monroe winning this game, but I think that Oklahoma will win the game. But Monroe will make it where they have to win at the very last second of the game, like they did against. I mean, they beat Arkansas last year, and Arkansas was number 8. Now Arkansas shouldn't have been number 8, but still, you never know. I could really see Monroe maybe beating Oklahoma. That'd be hilarious. I'm going to root for them. I'm not an Oklahoma fan. Like, I'm not a Texas fan. But moving into we're kind of take a break from Division 1, and we're going to go to 1A. Georgia Southern plays Savannah State. That's where my sister went. That's her alma mater. And so I think Georgia Southern will beat Savannah State. Butler and Wofford play. Wofford will get a lot of money for this game, but Butler will beat them. If Wofford beats them, I will be so happy. I mean, I'll root for the Terriers any day. And then App State will go into Montana. Or no, I believe Montana. No, App State goes to Montana, and App State will beat Montana. I mean, it's App State. App State's a great Division 1A team. Those 3 teams are the only ones I'm focusing on, just because they're the ones that are usually the best from the Southern Conference, and those are the ones that I know more about. But you got some good teams. I mean, heck, I go to a great Division 2 school in Valdosta State. So I mean, they won the national championship. They're number 1, and they play number 1 in the nation. They play shorter. No, they play Fort Valley in 3 weeks. So it should be awesome. But getting back to what I have, Clemson and Georgia will play in the best game of the season, with Clemson winning in double OT. Really would like to see Clemson win this game, honestly. I am not a Georgia Bulldog fan. I will say that up front. I'm from Georgia. I have lived in Georgia my entire life. I was out in Arizona for like a couple of years where I was an Arizona State fan. It was 1 year. But I am not a Georgia fan. I am a Georgia Tech fan, and we were 6-6 last year, and that was pretty bad. I'm not gonna talk about it. That was no. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Because we lost to Middle Tennessee, and yeah, that was pretty bad. So Clemson, I think will beat Georgia. I hope they beat Georgia. If not, whoever wins this game is out of the BCS picture, unless Alabama loses and other people lose. I'll tell you guys kind of who I think will possibly beat Alabama this year. And I know it will probably sound really crazy because the SEC has ruled it for the last 9 years. 9 years? Has it been 9 years? No. They've won, they've won every single one since 2006. So, I mean, heck, that's 7 years worth of titles. So, I think Clemson will win. But you never know in those games. It's a great rivalry game. As Samantha Ponder is on my TV, and enough said about that. Texas plays New Mexico State. Texas will win. I hate Texas, but they'll win. Nebraska and Wyoming play. Nebraska has won 27 straight season openers, so Nebraska is going to beat Wyoming. TCU and LSU will have a terrific game, with LSU only winning by 1 point by a field goal as time expires. Go Horned Frogs at that point. I mean, TCU and LSU, I hate LSU. I'm not an LSU fan. There's a lot of people I hate in college football. I'm not a Les Miles fan. Once I learned that he took away somebody's football scholarship, full ride all the way after about 4 or 5 games into the season and gave it to somebody else. I pretty much lost all respect because you just left the guy there basically with no money to go to school and get his degree and play football for you. So LSU, they can pretty much go suck an egg at this point. But TCU should beat them. But you never know. LSU, they got a new offensive coordinator. So LSU will probably beat them, but I want TCU to win. Definitely want TCU to win. UCLA will beat a very game Nevada team. UCLA, I'm a USC Trojan fan, and UCLA are our better rivals. Same with Stanford at this point, dear Lord. But UCLA, I love Jim Mora. I think he's a great coach. He coached the Falcons for a while, and he had the notorious falling to the ground with his hands out, like, oh my gosh. I forgot what game that was against in the NFL. But I could see them beating Nevada. I could also see Nevada beating them. That one's kind of up in the air. Boise State will beat Washington. Boise State is like 84-4 in the last 6 years. Or actually in the last, let's see, they played 12 games this season. They are, how many seasons is that? That's like 6 seasons. I don't know. My math is terrible right now. I have to write it down and do math actually. But they've only lost 4 games in the last almost decade at this point, and so Boise State will win. Their defense is so strong, and they have one defensive lineman that he wants blood on his hands every single game. So I don't know. Northwestern will beat Cal in a shootout at this point. Northwestern, I'm so happy to see them up there, the Wolfpack. But Cal, they have a freshman quarterback, and I can see him doing some good things. He is the first. This is a fun fact. He is the first freshman to be starting at Cal at quarterback in the history of the school. So just keep that in mind. He had Aaron Rodgers, but he was a transfer. He played sophomore through junior. Penn State will go into MetLife. In Syracuse's backyard, and Penn State will beat them. I could see Syracuse winning it, but I really want Penn State to win it. I was a big Joe Paterno fan, and everything that went down there. I really want to see Penn State get back to prime time, if you know what I mean. I want to see them return to prime time in a way. That's a kind of prelude to the football series I do on my channel. I'm going to say that's just kind of those are my predictions for Saturday. Moving on to Sunday, there's only one game in college football that's kind of been highlighted in the top 25, really, is Louisville playing Ohio of Ohio. So Ohio of Ohio. I was about to say, because how there's a Miami of Ohio and a Miami of Florida. I was about to say Ohio of Ohio, which I don't know why. But the Ohio, I believe they're the Owls. Louisville will beat them. Teddy Bridgewater is a beast. My friend Kyle is going to hate me for saying that Louisville is going to win that game because he's a Kentucky fan, and he's still kind of shaken up about the national championship in basketball. So Louisville will beat Ohio. And on Monday night, FSU, Florida State Seminoles, one of the best ACC football teams, and one of the best football teams in the way at school, probably in all of college sports. One of the best. Not the best, but one of the best. Bobby Bowden was one of the best coaches ever. I still think Joe Paterno is the best coach of all time. But FSU, Bear Bryant was good too. So there's so many good coaches in the history of college football and of the NFL. Holy cow! But Florida State will beat Pittsburgh to open up ACC play and notch their first win of the season. Is the last Monday night that we'll actually have college football. So it's a Monday night college football. ESPN should cover. They should put Mike Tirico and John Gruden in that booth and let them call that game. They should. Why not? Heck, that's what the people. I hope they do because they do that sometimes. They call some of the bowl games. But so those are kind of my predictions for this weekend in the way of college football. I know I made kind of some bold predictions, but that's just how my personal opinion is. There's some other teams that are playing, but those are kind of the ones that I wanted to highlight and kind of go over. Division I football, one of the reasons why I'm kind of not into college football usually as much, because by the end of the season I'm usually disappointed because the BCS is so corrupt in a way that, there's a lot of teams that should get in that don't get in, and there's a lot of teams that do get in that shouldn't get in. I mean, come on. Nobody wanted to see LSU and Alabama play again. You had a 2-loss LSU team playing a 1-loss, or were they undefeated? I think it may have been a 1-loss Alabama team. And that game was so poopy. I mean, I'm trying to be PG here. It was so bad. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Alabama won 21-0. And it was just clobber. I mean, last year's game I think was more. Last year's thrashing of Notre Dame was more exciting than the LSU game. Is that even possible? I mean, I think it was just because I absolutely hate Notre Dame and I hate LSU. But Alabama. They scored last year first 3 possessions of the game, first 4. I think they were up like 28-0 at one point. And it was just like it was done. It was done from the 3rd possession on. The game was over. And it was so sweet to see that, especially after Stanford got screwed out of the win against Notre Dame. Who was their running back? Man, I don't remember. He fumbled in the end zone against Notre Dame. You guys can go watch this, okay? Go on to YouTube and watch this, or go look at some other kind of thing. He gets into the end zone without his knees touching the ground. The ball breaks the plane. He even fumbles it, and his offensive lineman, he recovers it in the end zone, and they call it a no call. And then whenever they review it, the referee says, there is no penalty on the play for excessive celebration by the defense. Are you kidding me? They weren't even looking at the play on the field. They were looking at to see whether or not there was a penalty to make it where they would have gotten a first down. Or restart the game, give them like 5 seconds to play. That's just, they should have even been in the national championship game last year. Honestly, Oregon should have gone in, or a team like, who played? Stanford should have gotten in, for heaven's sakes. That's who I'm picking to go against Alabama this year. That's a good transition after I get fired up about it. Stanford, their front 7, which is their offensive line and defensive line, if you did not know that. Oh, no, sorry. Front 7 would be their defense. They have the 4 down linemen. They play a 4-3, okay, which is probably the best defense to me. 3-4, you can easily. You can't easily do it, but in the NFL they've figured out how to do it. The Packers and Steelers are getting shredded in a 3-4. So now Stanford, their front 7, their offensive line. They've been looking at this. I've been reading some stuff about this, and I've looked into it myself. Stanford, their offensive line is like what is just experienced, and they're as big as Alabama's was 2 years ago. Actually, even last year at that point, and they have so much youth. The front 7 of their defense, their linebacking core is talented, and they're fast, and they're strong, and their defensive line is destructive. I can almost see it where whoever wins the Oregon, I'm going to pick that Oregon and Stanford are going to play each other in the title game again, like they did last year. Stanford, if they play Oregon, Stanford will beat them, and they will go to the national championship game. I could see them beating Alabama if Alabama gets in. I'm still picking Alabama to get in. But the SEC is so open sometimes, just based on the West, just based on the Western sub-conference of that conference. Whoever wins that conference will go probably to the national championship. It's pretty much set in stone from day one. Unless everybody has 2 losses, then probably LSU will slip in with 3 losses like they did that one year. I don't know. I think Stanford could beat them. I kind of made a prediction about, I think it was in July, that the SEC would produce a champion not named Alabama this year, and I really do believe that. I could see it, but it depends on what happens in this Clemson game this week. I think if Clemson wins, Georgia has no shot to get back, because I think they'll lose. They'll either lose to the Gamecocks or they'll lose to the Tigers again, the other Tigers, the LSU Tigers. So, I don't know. I think Stanford will probably get in. I'm not a big Cardinal fan, but because I'm a USC fan, I really can't root for them, but I'll root for them because I'll root for the Pac-12 because they're very underrated and they're kind of overrated at the same time. As I get a text message, that was very unprofessional. I'm sorry about that. So I think Stanford will get in. I think Ohio State will get in too. Sadly, they have such an easy schedule this year, other than Big Blue and Michigan State. I believe they may play Michigan State. I think Michigan State may beat them, but sorry, I had to yawn. But I think this college football season, honestly, it's just my prediction. And, it's not even week 1 all the way through yet. I mean, we still haven't played a game today. It's 9:40 in the morning. This probably won't go up until about 10 or 12. It's really too early to kind of say who's going to get in. But there's so many people's schedules are so favorable that I could see so many people getting in, but I could also see so many people getting beat by these poopy schools. I mean, honestly, who can't forget the opening thrasher that they were supposed to be, where the Thrashers, don't even get me started. Opening thrash that was supposed to be the Michigan and Appalachian State game. And what was that? 2009, where the number 1 Michigan Wolverines were so excited to play a Division 1A school. They may have still been 2A at that point before they moved up to the sub-conference, or the sub-conference, championship conference, or whatever it's called now. They're so excited to play a Division 1A school, and then you can't even kick a field goal. In Appalachia, it was the sweetest day in college football, other than the Boise State beating Oklahoma in the Tostitos Bowl. That's still one of my favorite football games of all time. But you have Appalachian State blocking the field goal and running it back, and that is how the game ends. I mean, how poetic is that? And I could see some of these teams getting beat like that. But again, too early to really tell what's going on in the way of college football to really predict the outcome. There's possibly a 3-peat. I could see it. Honestly, who can't see that? Realistically speaking, you can't really say that they are not going to repeat. But you honestly can't say that they are because you really don't know. So I think whenever we get kind of like later in, maybe like the 4th or 5th episode, or even the 6th episode of this series, or this thing called Football Talk that I'm doing, and this kind of YouTube podcast, I think we'll really be able to tell who's really going to be in the front runner for the championship and the Heisman. So we'll have to see, but I think that's a good kind of transition over to the NFL. NFL starts this next Thursday. I believe it's the 3rd. Is it the 3rd? Let's see. 3rd. Let's see. Tomorrow's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Starts the 5th, I'm pretty sure. Let me check. I'm just going to double check that real quick. This is very unprofessional, but you know what? I got to check it. It's going to eat me up all day if I don't check this on my ESPN ScoreCenter app on my phone. If you guys don't have it, pick it up. Great way to keep track of scores, highlights, and standings. That is not a sponsorship commercial. I just want to tell you guys about it. It sounded like a sponsorship commercial, but it's not. All right, let's see. Week 1 starts the 5th. I was right. Okay, NBC. Baltimore and Denver face off in a rematch from the divisional round of the 2012 NFL playoffs. Denver looks to avenge the loss by taking down the defending Super Bowl champions. And my prediction on that game is going to come in a second. Denver is picked right now to win the Super Bowl. I think they have like a 2-1 odd right now. Because at this point, John Elway said, who's the GM, I believe maybe actually be the owner of the Denver Broncos at this point. I'm not a John Elway fan at all. He's pretty self-centered. Plus, he beat my Packers, and I can't take a man like that. That's just, I can't do that in the Super Bowl. And he beat Brett Favre, favorite quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is probably my second favorite quarterback. I don't know. They're so much like each other. But Denver's picked to win it. Wes Welker, who's a decent receiver. I won't say he's a great receiver because he can't catch anything in big games. Heck, if Justin Blackburn can catch a ball that's way over his head, and you mean Wes Welker can? Come on now. That's gonna irk some Patriot fans that may be listening to this. I'm sorry. I'm so happy. I don't know. I kind of wanted the Patriots to finally win another one just because they needed to, but Brady. I mean, you've had 10 straight years of 10+ wins. I mean, you really can't go wrong. And you have 3 Super Bowls. Even though you've been in 5 in the 2000s, so 3 out of 5 is not bad. But moving back to Denver, Peyton Manning, second year as a Denver Bronco. Their running game is kind of questionable, but I mean he has a great receiving core. Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, and then you have Wes Welker. I believe they still have Brandon Stokely too, which Gus Johnson's famous call of Brandon Stokely down the sidelines was so fantastic whenever they beat the Bengals that one year. Who I think may go really far this year, by the way, the Bengals. But Denver is definitely one of those teams that will win that division hands down. Phillip Rivers for the Chargers, I don't know. And then they have Manti Te'o, who he's still trying to find out where his girlfriend is. And then you got the Raiders and the Chiefs, which they hate each other. But the Raiders I could see doing good because Matt Flynn's a good quarterback, and they have a lot of good youth on that team. Sorry, another yawn. That was my bad. But I could also see the Chiefs doing good. I think Alex Smith will do good for that. And Jamal Charles, honestly, is one of the best running backs right now in the league. Even though I kind of want him to get hurt, so somebody in my fantasy league doesn't do very well. But that's just me. That's just how I feel sometimes. I got to root against some people so they get hurt day one. Denver, again, I don't know. I don't know about this game. Baltimore, on the other hand, going way over. They have Dumas Elverville on the defensive line, who used to be a Bronco. Actually, switching back to Denver real quick, Denver actually has a really weak defense at this point. Their linebacking core is terrible. They don't have Von Miller, and he's a beast. They're not necessarily. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. They're not necessarily terrible. They're decent, but I think they're weak on defense this year. Champ Bailey is getting old. I'm pretty sure he's in a wheelchair at this point, or at least he has some really nice mechanical legs still on him. Going back to Baltimore, they lost so many people in the offseason: Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Dennis Pitta, Paul Kruger, Anquan Bolden. Who else did they lose? This is just about it, honestly. But that offense will still be pretty good. Dennis Pitta's out, season injury done. He's over. NASCAR race tomorrow night. Don't forget about that, boys. But Baltimore, that team. It's the defending Super Bowl champion, so you really can't count them out. But there hasn't been a repeat since the Patriots did it in the early 2000s. So I really don't see them repeating this year. But it could happen. But again, it's week 1 of the NFL season, and anything is possible. Quoting Kevin Garnett. But I think my predictions for this game, because that Baltimore defense is still pretty strong, and they're good. They're decent. They have Pollard and Haloti Ngata. So I think the Ravens, and they have Ray Rice on offense. I think the Ravens will beat the Broncos week 1. Honestly, I think the Ravens will attack the weak linebacking core of the Broncos by really just running the ball and getting it this downhill running. Honestly, because Ray Rice is traditionally one of the best running backs at the end of the year. He's one of the best receiving backs at that. I mean, that 4th and 16 play last year was fantastic. So that's who I think will win opening game. Now, going over to the division winners at the end of the season, honestly, in the AFC, the Broncos, the Patriots, those two are pretty much set in stone. However, I think that the Dolphins will give the Patriots a run for their money, and the Bills may do it too if everybody on the Bills can stay healthy. But definitely the Dolphins. Dolphins are gonna be so strong in the next couple of years, unless they completely bomb and everybody goes away. But Patriots, Broncos, Texans. I'm picking the Texans over the Colts because I watched the Texans play the really good revamped Saints. That's a quote right there from Bill Billick. God, I hate that man. I hate a lot of people, it seems like. I may need to get that checked out. That's not very healthy, I don't think. He's a Super Bowl winner. But Texans, I think Texans will win. Matt Schaub. If Atlanta had kept him, they probably would have won a Super Bowl by now. But Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson, Ben Tate, Arian Foster. Now they have Ed Reed, J.J. Swat, Brian Cushing. I mean, that team, it's loaded, and they have such chemistry, and they're good. And Owen Daniels is a beast. on tight end. I think they may go far again this year. And then my pick to win, that was the West, that was the North, that was the East, that was the South, and now my North pick. I don't think the Ravens won this year. I don't think the Ravens will win at all. I think the Bengals are going to win that division this year. Now, I'm going on a limb when I say that. I mean, you can never count the Steelers or the Ravens out. You can count the Browns out pretty much, day one at this point. Unless they shock us again and win it like they did a couple years ago. Was that 08? They won in 08? Yeah. They won in 07. They won in 07. I remember that. And they almost got to the playoffs that year because that guy caught it, but he was pushed out due to the push-out rule. That was taken away the year after, which was terrible. But Bengals, I think the Bengals will win it this year. I think they're good. I think their running game is a little bit weak, but Andy Dalton and A.J. Green will tear it up. And their defense is good. They have James Harrison. I love James Harrison. That's somebody I don't hate. How about that? Right off the bat. The wild card for that will be the Ravens and Colts. Colts, Andrew Luck, he's a stud. He will always be a stud in this league. I think the best thing that ever happened to Andrew Luck, and this is the honest-to-goodness truth at this point of this juncture. Best thing that ever happened to Andrew Luck is being bypassed on the Heisman. Best thing that could ever happen to him was that. Because if you look at the Heisman winners who have come out as a quarterback, especially a white quarterback, okay? This is not a race thing. I'm just saying this is the truth. A white quarterback who's won the Heisman. You have to look at people like Palmer, Leinart. I think Booty won it. Didn't he win it? And then you look at Ryan Leaf. I mean, Peyton Manning's the last really white Heisman winner to really do it. No, did he even? No, I don't even think Peyton didn't even win the Heisman. So that's good for him. But definitely look what I said. Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart. I love Matt Leinart to death. I hate that he just got cut by the Bills. But those two guys, and of course it's from USC, of course it's Bust Central, except for Reggie Bush, he's a beast. And Maluga, I believe he's on suspension right now for drugs. Clay Matthews, But still, look at those two guys. And look at somebody like Vince Young. Look at somebody like Tebow, which I hate to say. I like Tebow a lot. Those four guys right there, you could just tell a story with that. There's a lot of people throughout history of college football, mind you, that has won it and have completely sucked it up in the NFL. I think probably the one person that really hasn't sucked it up was probably Barry Sanders. Herschel Walker got in there, and yeah. But Barry Sanders, he didn't even want the Heisman to begin with, and he was just amazing. He retired at the top of his game for a lot of reasons, a lot of reasons, and it's sad. But I think again, going back to the Colts, Andrew Luck not winning the Heisman was the best thing that ever happened to the man, and I'm so proud of him for what he's done in the NFL in his rookie season. I think he'll be a stud. I think him, Cousins, Glennon, Russell Wilson, and Ponder will all be studs in the NFL. You notice how I don't say RG3 or Kaepernick, okay? That's not because I don't like him. I'm not a big Kaepernick fan, and I like RG3, but they're both fun to watch. But Kaepernick and RG3 rely a little bit too much on their feet. RG3 can sling it, so can Kaepernick. But they need to be careful, especially RG3. He tore his ACL. We got Adrian Peterson, but Peterson is he's an alien at this point. I have no idea what that man is. I wish my Packers had given them those other 9 yards, or 10 yards actually to beat it, or maybe 9 yards. I wish they would have given them to him. I'm not a Vikings fan. I'll root for the Vikings if they're against the Bears. I hate the Bears. Dear God. I'm a Packers fan. I can't like the Bears. It's impossible for me to like Chicago. But still, RG3, I think I don't know. He's going to have some problems, I think, later on with his legs. Kaepernick, I think, will fizzle out. I'm not saying that because I don't like the man. I like Kaepernick. He's very confident. He's borderline arrogant. But Kaepernick is one of those quarterbacks that he played He played the last 6 seasons of the season, okay, last 6 games of the season, and played 4 games in the playoffs. If you look at what he did in the Super Bowl, okay, before the blackout, you have to look before the blackout because the game actually didn't do anything after the blackout. I mean, honestly, the blackout was just, it was very fortunate. I don't know if it happened on purpose or if it was actually a mistake or not, but if that blackout had not happened, that game was over after Jacoby Jones ran that touchdown back. It was over. There was no way because that defense was way too pepped up and they're way too going and they're old as crap. And then you give them a 30-minute break and they cool off, and then you give it a really fast offense time to readjust. There you go. 31 or what was it? 34-31. That was the final score, and it was like 28-0, 28-3, I think. Yeah, 28-3. I'm pretty sure. Daggone. But I think Kaepernick will probably fizzle out. He has a great offense this year, and their defense is so stellar. But I think they may fizzle out. But going back to my picks for the division winner, as we just kind of gone back, Colts will be the last wild card spot. They'll get in as the 6th team, the 6th team. I think probably about maybe 9-7, 10-6. NFC now transitioning over to the NFC. The North, the Packers will probably win the division, but I could see the Vikings winning the division too. Everybody has the Vikings not winning. I could see almost the Lions. The Lions may win it. You never know. That I think that division is the most up for grabs as any of the other divisions. Maybe the NFC East. Those two, NFC North and NFC East are probably the two up for grabs at this point. I hate the Bears, but Trestman, I don't know how he's going to really do in the NFL. And Jay Cutler, I hate his guts, and he's a douche. So that's that. Now the South with the Falcons winning, I had them winning the division. The Falcons could really, really make themselves vital here. I don't know. I got to take some water. Hold on. I could really see the Falcons winning it. Like, maybe winning the whole thing, But Falcons will win that division with probably Carolina in 2nd, Tampa Bay in 3rd, and screw the Saints. That's all I got to say. 49ers will take the division out in the West. I really am. I'm really upset that I picked that, but I really can't not pick that at this point. I could really see Seattle winning it, and who knows, maybe Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald will make it where the Cardinals win it, or even the Rams win it. The NFC has the best teams right now in all of the NFL at this point. So I really could see that division being up for grabs too. And then the East, I have no pick for the East because nobody honestly knows who's going to win that division until the last 2 weeks of the season. I mean, honestly, they're always like 8-8 or 9-7. So or 10-6. So we really just we have to. That's one of those. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm not a Giants fan. And I'm not a Redskins fan. I really don't care who wins that division. But if I really had to pick anybody, I'd probably say the Redskins, just because RG3. But and Kyle's gonna hate me for that pick too, because he's a Cowboys fan. I'm just not a Cowboys fan, and I can't pick them. I don't know. That division is so open. It's just really, 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 really. Man, I don't know. There's so much uncertainty on every single team. I don't think the Eagles win it. I really don't. I think that may be the only team that I say won't win it. The other three, the Giants, the Giants, the Redskins, and the Cowboys will all play their hearts out, and they will. Whoever wins that division will probably get bounced in the first round or second round. But moving on, the wild card slot for that will either be, I have it right now for Seattle winning the first wild card spot, and then I have the Vikings winning the other one. So for the 6th slot, but again, the Packers or the Vikings could take that spot. They could switch, or the Lions may get in there. But Seattle and 49ers, I'm pretty sure set in stone at this point, because they are, really the best two teams out there, honestly, to say, but you never know about the Rams and the other people. I mean, in the Cardinals, the other people. Wow, that sounds terrible. I almost forgot the Cardinals' name when I was out there. And I won 3 straight Super Bowls with them on Madden 09. I traded in Madden 13, but playing on Madden 09 because it's the only only Madden cover to have a Packer player, and it's Brett Favre. I mean, who wouldn't want Brett Favre on the Packer cover of Madden? You know, daggum, gets me all flustered just thinking about it. So, but you know, so those are just kind of like my picks for the NFL season. I think NFL season will be definitely interesting this year. Honestly, I think it will be a good year for football all the way around. Last year for the BCS system in the NFL. Wow, I've been talking for an hour. Last BCS year for the college football season moves to a 4-game playoff. We'll have to see how that really turns out. They may have to make it like a 6 or 8 at this point. Honestly, I could see them doing that. I think a 6-team or even an 8-team would be fine to me. Yeah, you know, kind of in wrap up. You know, I really hope that the games today are good. For every school. You know, we have to remember, people, these are kids that are playing to represent their school, and they're there for an education. Most of them are, but you know, your job as a college football player, as a college sport, and being in college sports in general, your job is to be a student, and your job is to play the sport. But you should not get paid for playing the sport. You should not get paid for doing your schoolwork, but you do because it's financial aid, that's scholarship. But their job there is to be a student, and the job in the NFL is to get paid because you're a professional, you're not amateur. So I think to kind of close up what I've kind of said just then was, let's keep the autograph signings and the apparel selling and the, you know, overall busyness of people's schedules and nightlife. Let's keep that to the pros, everybody. That is not a shot to Johnny Manziel. That is a shot to everybody that has done that in the past. Terrell Pryor, AJ Green, Dez Bryant. You know, that's just wait until you get, like, if you're really that famous, why would you throw it away at this point? You know, and on some sad news, the Falcons released Brian Banks, which I don't know. I don't understand why. You go look up his story. It's interesting. It's awesome. Definitely an enlightenment if you're really interested in that kind of stuff. And then Matt Leinart got released by the Bills, which is sad. I think he probably has had the worst NFL career of anybody ever. Maybe Bo Jackson, but Matt Leinart, he's only played like one down of football because his collarbone is in 40 pieces. So again, in conclusion to this first episode of Football Talk, I am IA Marksman. I hope the day goes well. It's college football season, baby. Let's go get it. I hope you guys have a good day and enjoy the game. So I will see you guys next week for episode 2 of Football Talk. I should have a guest caller next week, but hopefully I will. If not, then we will go from there. So thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya. Bye.